What was going to school like then?
Well, of course, in the 30s, that was at the end, not the end, but during the Great Depression, where I grew up, times were tough. Nobody had any money to speak of. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. Of course, I was one of 7 children, the youngest. And but we didn't miss any meals, but it was tough going. Yeah, I did see grown-ups selling apples on the street corner and standing in line in the soup kitchens. So it was pretty stark back there. My brothers and sisters walked the streets looking for jobs and big signs, no help wanted, no help wanted. They just wear out their shoes trying to get jobs. And those people out in this part of the country either didn't have it as bad as we had it back in an industrial area. During that time, the government gave flour out to people that needed it. And it was stenciled right on the bag not to be sold. So it was given to needy people. And the Salvation Army back there distributed it to the people. So we didn't feel embarrassed about it because everybody else was about in the same shape we were. Of course, being the youngest of 7, 5 boys and 2 girls.
What were all their names?
Oh, my oldest brother was Bernard, or Barney as we called him. And it was Harold, and Dick, and Pete, and myself. And Thelma was my oldest sister, and Esther was a little younger sister. And we were pretty much all born, about every 2 years, about 2 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From 1910 to 1920.
And, of course, Dad had a job making $25 a week.
What did he do?
Well, at that time, early on, he delivered concrete blocks to contractor people, builders. And in those, nowadays, they stick a thing under and lift them off. But those had to be loaded by hand and unloaded by hand. So it was real hard work. And then eventually, he did automobile repair work. And he had his own business. And that's really what he was doing. When I came out here, I helped out a little bit. Didn't like getting my hands greasy very much.
Did your mom just stay at home, or did she have a job too?
No, she stayed home. However, at one time, she took in washings. Did washings for people. You never knew that, or that's true. Yeah. But you had to do. In fact, Mother at one time would make donuts when I was quite small, and then we'd go door to door and try to sell the donuts. Of course, nobody had any more money than we did, so it was kind of tough selling someone there anything to buy it with. We never missed any meals, thank goodness, but times were tough.
What year did you come out here?
1942, November the 4th.
Okay, that's too late for the 30s.
Yeah. Well, I was turned down by the Army because of my health, and they had done everything they thought they could do back there. They wanted to do lobectomies, take the lower lobes of my lungs out. I thought, no, I don't think so. So the only alternative I had was to pack my little bag, get on the train, come to Albuquerque. And I'd never seen a postcard view of Albuquerque. Had no idea what to see. And I was not exposed to Hispanics or Indians. And I'm not a bigot, I just didn't grow up around them. Then I at the little town of Belen, south of here. I met a couple, an older couple from Wilmington, Delaware. And he was out here for his health. So in conversation, they said if they came to Albuquerque and liked Albuquerque, they were going to buy a house. I said, if you get a house bigger than you need and you got an extra room, I'll rent it. So I checked in the YMCA back at First and Central. Came in my box one day said, we bought a house, come see us. So I went out, took the bus out, and they said, there's your room. I would never have stayed if I hadn't met those people. Mm-hmm. I was really homesick and didn't feel well. So that's how I came to Albuquerque.
Mm. And what was school like? Like grade school? And
oh, great. And I hope you kids enjoy it to the fullest, because that's the greatest time you'll ever have. Yeah. It sort of bothers me growing up like I did and see young people just waste their life. Drugs, smoking, all those stupid things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, well, hey, enjoy it. That's the best time. We, in addition to
winter time,
those hard times with 4 brothers and 2 sisters, couldn't find jobs. We lost our home that I grew up in because we couldn't pay $2,800. So they took the house back, and then we moved and rented a place. However, during that time, we rented our house and lived in a cheaper place to save money, and the guy that rented our house never paid us. So that's how we have to lose our house. And Dad worked hard all his life. When I came to Albuquerque, I made $80 a month. Not a week, not a day, a month. But I had room and board for 40, so I had 40 left over to have my laundry done. And I lived in the boarding house where the food was good. So I managed.
The beginning of the 30s reminds me of the Dust Bowl days. And I have many memories of that. And there was one day that was called Black Sunday. And I think it was in 1935. And we'd been out and we were driving home. And all of a sudden you couldn't see the person in front of you. I meant beside you or the hand in front of your face. It was just black. And I was with my mother and 3 sisters. And we sat in the car a while wondering, what are we going to do now? We were on a country road because we lived on a ranch and we were going home. So we sat a while, and then finally one of my sisters got on one running board, which they don't have these days, and Mother on the other side, and I drove, and they'd tell me, you know, where I was going because there were bar ditches on each side. And we finally got home, and it had been a beautiful day when we left, and we'd left the windows open and all, and when we got home, we really had to clean the house. And, well, before that, in 1933 and 34, we and the Okies, like the Grapes of Wrath, went to, my mother and 5 sisters and I went to California to live for just the school term. And we had a wonderful time out there. And my father would come out periodically to visit, and his brother lived out there. and he should have worked for the Southern California Chamber of Commerce, because he'd come by after school and on Saturdays and Sundays, and we'd always go someplace to see things. So we had a wonderful time and got out of the Dust Bowl for that length of time. I mentioned I have 5 sisters, and 2 of them are deceased, but one lives in Old Lyme, Connecticut, one in Washington, D.C., and one in Dalhart, Texas, which was our home where we all grew up. And we lived on a ranch and had lots of fun playing because there wasn't anything else to do. And there was a pond, and we'd go down and play with the tadpoles, and we had a sand bed, and we cut out paper dolls out of catalogs and played paper dolls, and there was a granary about a mile from the house, and we'd all go down there and play in the wheat, and there were wheat fields too, and we near the house, and we would play in the wheat fields. And in those days, the wheat was real high. It isn't high like that anymore. But we could hide and play hide and seek in the wheat. And we had a dog named Peggy, and she was very protective of us. We had a bunkhouse and cowboys on the ranch. And if she saw one of them near us, she got between us to protect. I don't know if my daddy trained her or what, but but that's the way it was. She was a nice dog.
Okay, and what were your parents' names?
Well, my father was David Ralph Childers, and my mother was Mary Helen, nicknamed Nellie Carr, and they were married in 1915. And had the 6 daughters. And my father was a rancher and would love to have had a son, but he loved us anyway. Okay?
And what was school like?
School. Oh yeah, school. Well, as Don said, it's the best time of your life. You make lifelong friends and learn, and some teachers mean a lot to you through the years, and especially my English teachers, and it isn't showing now, but but they were quite influential and taught us things. And I took piano lessons and had a wonderful teacher, and she taught us theory and harmony and all that. And when I went to college, I was the only one in the whole class who'd ever had theory and harmony. I made 100 on all of my work until about the 2nd semester. And then things changed. But we all went to college, and my mother she saw to that because she was planning to go when she was of age, and her father died, and she had 3 younger brothers, and she felt she needed to stay home and help with the family. And she worked in the bank until she married my father.
One thing Dorothy hasn't mentioned, that it was so dusty that they'd have to put a wet...
Yeah, when we'd walk to school. I said we lived in the country, but we would move to town in the winter to go to school and then back to the country in the summertime. But when we walked to school, we'd get one of Daddy's handkerchiefs and put over our mouths and noses because the sand just felt like it was pitting your face. Mm-hmm. It really was blowing. And we'd come home and sometimes have to just clean the whole house and wash the dishes and everything before we could even eat. Even though you had a well-insulated house, it still got in there. Mm-hmm. But those Dust Bowl days were terrible. And my father, being a farmer and a rancher, he would maybe all of a sudden lose his wheat crop. But I never heard my mother and father talking finances. Mm-hmm. They probably did, but we felt we had everything that anybody else had. We never felt underprivileged because Daddy lost a wheat crop or something. Mm-hmm. And we all got along fine. And my mother was Catholic and my father was Baptist. And he sang in the choir in the Baptist church. And there was a rumor before they were married that they agreed that all the boys would be Baptist and all the girls would be Catholic, and they were all girls. Now, so.
What was your first job?
My first job was playing the piano for a dancing school.
And what year was that?
And I would play after school. And maybe till 7 o'clock in the evening. And that was my first job. And there was a little cigar and candy and newspaper place there. And a husband and wife owned it. And when on Sunday afternoons, if they wanted to go for a ride or something, they'd have me come down and stay in the shop. And I don't think they made any profits because they said, eat all the candy you want to. And I've thought about that since, wondering just how many of those candy bars I did eat. And then I started working with the government and had typist jobs. And then I was in college when the war started. And my mother got a summer job for us with the government, for us, Isabel and me. And we were having so much fun and making so much money we didn't go back to college. And but 2 of my sisters did graduate from college, but we all went at one time or another.
Mm-hmm. What college did you go to?
I first went to Florida Heights College in Denver. And then my sister, just younger than I, said she would have been the 5th one to go there. And she said, I'm not going there. So Mother found us a college in Atchison, Kansas, Mount St. Scholastica, which is now Benedictine College. And we had lots of fun there. Mm-hmm. And have made some lifelong friends from that college. We girls had lots of fun together, but there were, at times, hair pullings and pinchings when we were growing up. But people have been amazed through the years that we're all so close that some families don't stay as close and be as good friends as we all are to this day. Mm-hmm. And probably will stay that way. We've lost 2 of our sisters, but the 4 of us got together in October in Connecticut. And one of my sister Isabel's friends came up, we were eating lunch someplace, came up to the table and she said, "Oh, I just knew you were all sisters because you look so much alike." And then she said, oh, excuse me, you don't. And she said, "I'm sorry." And I said, "I'm not." And of course, I was just joking. But I don't look like any of my sisters. I think it was on my 16th birthday. And after church, some friends came by and wanted to go for a ride. There were about 5 or 6 of us. And then when it was time to go home, one of them said, I need to go to the bathroom. And I thought, well, you're going home. Why don't you wait? But she wanted to go in, and Mother was having a surprise birthday party for me. So that's why, that's their excuse for going in the house. So
Okay.
I had one party.
16 is the year to have a party.
I came to Albuquerque in 1947 to work after the air base closed in Dalhart. I worked there for 4.5 years as worked in purchasing and contracting, and I was in charge of all the typists and the making up the purchase orders and getting the bids for merchandise that needed to be bought and all that. And then when the war was over, I think there were 5 other civilians left at the base because we were having salvage sales and getting rid of all the equipment. And then after that, my mother thought I should go to work again. So we came over here and I applied out at Sandia Base. And I started out as a colonel secretary and then ended up as an editorial clerk. And in the meantime, a good friend of ours lived over here, and he had met Don, and he introduced me to Don, and we had a date and went to the Casa Manana and dined and danced. And then I didn't see him, that was in September, and I didn't see him again until I came here to work. It's September 46. And then I came here to work in 47. And in that time, he had a girlfriend. So I didn't see him. But the other dates I had, I always said to myself, I'm not going out with anybody else unless Don Cline asks me. And finally he did. And the way he asked was, would you teach me how to play the piano? So we had a date and never had a piano lesson. Right?
The best day of my life.
And did he eat a hamburger at the Casa Manana?
He probably ate a steak. In those days he was a steak eater.
About $1.50.
Yeah. I don't know what I ate, but
I always thought, that
That's what I was going to tell you.
if I ever met a girl that was satisfied just to go to the movie and afterwards have a cup of coffee, I wanted to marry her.
And
Well,
she
And
was?
she didn't have anything to eat because I couldn't afford it.
yeah, we'd go out after, say, the movie, and he'd have a hamburger and Coke or coffee or something. But I really didn't want a hamburger at that time of night, so he thought I was a cheap date. So he married me.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it worked out fine. I have 2 lovely granddaughters.
Right.
And 2 sons.
Yes.